When silence causes heart wounds, recognizing invisible violence. Silence hurts deeply. Hello dear friends. Today, let's talk about a topic that might not be new but often hides beneath subtle layers. Inflicting deep wounds that we sometimes don't even notice. It's the violence of silence. When we hear the word, violence, the first images that come to mind for many of us might be shouting, harsh insults, or even physical acts. We picture someone trembling, suffering under the rage of another. But you know what? That's only part of the story. There's another form of violence, just as devastating, if not more lingering, and it stems from silence itself. Key points we'll explore together. Before diving into the details, I'd like to share the main ideas we'll explore today. First, we'll see that children who experience silent violence often carry more complex and conflicted emotions than those who are directly scolded or insulted. Next, each child is affected in their own unique way, but these emotional wounds often only fully surface when they reach adulthood. Finally, we'll identify the different forms of silent violence, from indifference and ignoring questions to silence laced with contemptuous expressions. Silent violence and its quiet threats. Now, let's listen and feel more deeply about the quiet threats of silent violence. Some stories weigh heavily on my heart. Take Ms. A 38-year-old woman, who shared, "My mother never raised her voice. But strangely, when I tried to tell her that her critical, humiliating remarks hurt me, she'd say, 'I've never yelled in my life. What more do you want?' It's confusing. People suffer from harsh words. Sure, but why do I feel this lingering pain even though she never shouted?" Or take a 27-year-old woman, who said, "As a kid, I felt invisible to my mom. She'd ask what I wanted to eat but then cook my brother's favorite dish. When I didn't want to eat, she'd get annoyed and slam the bowl down in front of me, full of anger. Or when we went shopping, I'd like a pair of red shoes, but she'd pick blue ones because she thought they suited me better." I know dwelling on these little things isn't good, but they haunt me to this day. I always felt like my opinions meant nothing to her. And now, I constantly doubt my own choices and judgment. These confessions reveal a bitter truth. Sometimes, the worst effects of violence come from silence. It might be silence tinged with mockery, making the other person feel humiliated. It could be dismissive silence, ignoring someone's presence entirely. This silence, believe it or not, can stir up more noise, more internal storms within a child's soul than loud reprimands ever could. How painful it is to be treated as invisible. To feel like your existence is nothing more than a speck of dust no one bothers to notice. A child raised in such an environment often carries conflicted, hard-to-name emotions, more so than one who's openly scolded or insulted. The absence of clear anger creates a harmful confusion. The child can't understand what lies behind the silence or neglect. They don't know what they did wrong or why they're unworthy of care. And the consequences of this invisible violence are both varied and severe. First, it triggers negative changes in a child's developing brain. It plants seeds of harsh self-criticism, leading them to blame every failure or mistake on flaws in their own character. It erodes emotional intelligence, weakening their ability to recognize, manage, and control emotions later in life. And it fosters insecure attachment styles in relationships, like an invisible barrier preventing healthy social connections as they grow. Each child is affected differently, uniquely, but one sad commonality is that these wounds quietly grow with them, only fully erupting into clear problems in adulthood. Levels and types of silent violence. So, how does silent violence manifest? Let's identify its levels and classifications together. Many of us, especially parents, sometimes think silence is golden, a way to keep the peace and avoid conflict. But not all silence is positive. Some silences are nightmares, driving people to seek therapists to heal their emotional scars. Often, the victims of this behavior don't even realize they're being hurt. Here are some common levels and forms of silent violence we need to recognize. Type 1. Indifference. Children learn to understand the world and relationships through direct experiences. A child lucky enough to have a caring, attentive mother learns they're valuable, worthy of love and attention, building a strong foundation for healthy self-esteem. Through loving actions, the mother says, "You're wonderful, my dear," giving the child strength and confidence to explore the world. But a child frequently ignored by their mother feels lost, unable to find their place. They become fragile, anxious, and insecure. The famous still face experiment, conducted over 40 years ago, vividly showed the devastating impact of neglect on infants and young children. Initially, a mother interacts warmly with her baby, smiling, talking, gesturing. The baby responds joyfully. Then, the mother suddenly becomes expressionless, showing no emotion. At first, the baby tries to regain her attention, but when efforts fail, they cry out in distress and panic. Similar experiments with older children yield the same results: confusion, anxiety, and a sense of abandonment when ignored. In the experiment, the children recover when the mother smiles again. But imagine if a child faces that indifference daily, what happens then? It deeply affects their psychological coping mechanisms, forming anxious or avoidant attachment styles that persist into adulthood. Type 2. Not answering questions. Put yourself in a child's shoes. You ask something, but all you get is silence, no response. It's as if you're completely ignored. The natural reaction is anger, hurt, and despair. It's no surprise that renowned couples therapist John Gottman identified the demand withdraw pattern here, asking and being ignored, as one of the most toxic dynamics, a predictor of relationship breakdown. Even for adults, being ignored by a partner is hard to bear. How much worse is it for a child, wholly dependent and unable to fully protect themselves? It chips away at their fragile self-esteem. Worse, they may blame themselves, thinking they're not good enough to deserve attention or answers. Type 3. Silence with contempt or mockery. Sometimes, silence isn't just the absence of words. It's conveyed through attitudes, gestures, facial expressions, and countless nonverbal cues. A roll of the eyes, a sneer, a pursed lip, though silent. These can wound as deeply as harsh words or physical acts. They subtly signal that the child is annoying, foolish, or insignificant. Conclusion. Dear friends, in any relationship, family, friendship, or love, it can only thrive with dialogue, listening, and mutual understanding. Silence, especially the negative kind we've explored, often breeds more problems, fueling harmful assumptions and misunderstandings. In the end, the core issue remains unresolved, or worsens. I hope today's discussion helps us recognize silent violence more clearly, so we can protect ourselves and the children we love from these invisible wounds. Remember, loving words, genuine care, and open communication are the keys to healthy, lasting relationships. Thank you for listening.